Hi, welcome to another video. Google AI Studio has been getting a lot of really interesting vibe coding updates recently, and the newest ones are actually pretty important because AI Studio is no longer just a place where you chat with Gemini or generate a small web app. It can now build Android apps directly inside your browser, and Google has also added a new design variations option that helps you instantly generate and apply different UI layouts without writing some long design prompt. And honestly, this is kind of great. Now, I have talked about AI Studio Build before, and I still think it is one of the most underrated app builders out there, especially because it is connected to the Gemini ecosystem, and the free tier is usually very generous. But Android app generation changes the story quite a bit, because previously, if you wanted to build an Android app, even a simple one, you usually had to install Android Studio, set up the Android SDK, configure the emulator, deal with Gradle, create the project structure, understand Kotlin or Java, and then start building the actual app. And if your machine is not very powerful, Android Studio can be quite heavy. The emulator alone can make your laptop sound like it is preparing for takeoff. But now with AI Studio, the workflow is much simpler. You can go to AI Studio, open the apps or build section, choose the Android app option, describe what you want to build, and Gemini will generate the Android project for you. It can create a Kotlin and Jetpack Compose app, set up the Gradle files, generate the manifest, create the resources, build the UI, and then show you the app running inside a cloud Android emulator. So you're not just getting a random code snippet, you are getting an actual Android project that you can preview, interact with, iterate on, and eventually download. That is the big deal here. For beginners, this lowers the barrier to Android development massively. You can build a small habit tracker, a notes app, a workout timer, a study app, a simple finance tracker, a mood journal, a tiny AI companion app, or basically any simple mobile utility without spending 2 hours setting up tools before you even see a button on screen. And for developers, I think this can be really useful as a prototyping tool. If you have an idea for a mobile app, you can describe it, get a working Android prototype in the browser, test the flow, ask for changes, and only then decide if the idea is worth turning into a proper project. That is a much better workflow than starting with an empty Android Studio project and spending half the day fighting boilerplate. Now, from what Google describes, the Android builder is focused on modern Android development, so it uses Kotlin, Jetpack Compose, Material 3, and the standard Android project setup. That is good, because Compose is the direction Android UI has been going in for a while now. It is much more AI-friendly than old XML layouts because the UI is code-based, declarative, and easier for a model to generate and edit. You can also preview the app in a cloud emulator, rotate it, test the interface, and keep prompting Gemini to fix issues or add features. So, let's say you ask it to make a meditation timer app. It can generate the initial UI. Then you can say, add custom session lengths, add a history page, make the timer persist if I leave the app, or make the design more minimal and calm. And instead of manually editing several files yourself, you can keep iterating through prompts. That is the type of thing that makes this exciting. Now, there is also an installation workflow for real devices. You can connect your Android phone and install the app through the browser using web USB. This is important because Android emulators are useful, but they are not enough. Mobile apps need to be tested on real devices. The screen size, permissions, performance, battery behavior, keyboard behavior, scrolling feel, and even small touch interactions can feel different on a real phone. So, the fact that you can build in the browser, preview in the emulator, and then install it on a real Android phone is pretty amazing for quick testing. There is also support for Play Console internal testing, which means if you have a Google Play developer account, you can package the app and push it to an internal testing track. Now, this does not mean AI Studio magically makes your app production ready or approved for the Play Store. You still need to test properly, check permissions, check crashes, check privacy behavior, check Play Store policies, and make sure the app is not doing anything weird. But as a path from idea to testable Android app, this is really nice. Now, there are some limitations as well. Android apps in AI Studio are currently more limited than web apps. The full-stack features like Firebase integration, secrets management, workspace APIs, and multiplayer support are mainly for web apps, not Android apps. The Android app generation is also focused on Kotlin and Jetpack Compose, so you should not expect Java projects, old XML layout workflows, NDK support, Wear OS, Android TV, or complex multi-module projects from this yet. And for Android projects, the docs focus on downloading the project as a zip, so don't assume it has the exact same workflow as the web app builder. So I would not call this a full replacement for Android Studio, at least not yet. I would call it a prompt to prototype Android builder. And that is still very useful because a lot of people don't need a perfect production app on the first try. They need a working first version. They need something they can tap on. They need to see if the idea makes sense on a phone. And this is where AI Studio can be really powerful. Now, the second update is design variations. And I actually think this might be one of the most important vibe coding features for non-designers. Google basically said that describing an aesthetic in a prompt can be tough, so they made a button for it. And that is exactly the problem. When you are building with AI, writing feature prompts is usually easy. You can say, make a Toto app, add a calendar, add login, add a chart, or save the data. But design prompts are much harder because how do you describe taste? You might say, make it modern, but modern can mean anything. You might say, make it premium, and the model might just add dark gradients and glass cards everywhere. You might say, make it minimal, and it might remove everything useful from the interface. This is why so many AI-generated apps have the same look. They have big cards, random gradients, huge border radius, too much spacing, generic icons, and a layout that looks okay in a screenshot but feels very template-like when you actually use it. Design Variations tries to solve this by making the design process more visual. Instead of typing a long aesthetic prompt and hoping Gemini understands your taste, you can generate multiple UI variations, explore them, and apply the one you like. So, if you are building a dashboard, a mobile utility, a landing page, or an app interface, you can quickly try different layout directions without rebuilding everything manually. That is really useful because in most app builders, the first version of the app is rarely the final design. The functionality might be fine, but the layout feels off. The spacing is weird, the colors are too loud. The typography does not match the use case. The app feels too playful when it should feel professional, or too boring when it should feel fun. Previously, you would need to keep prompting the model again and again. Make it more polished. Make it less corporate. Make the layout denser. Make the cards smaller. Make it feel like a real product. And sometimes that works, but sometimes the model changes too much or makes the wrong part worse. With design variations, the loop becomes much easier. You can generate a few visual options, compare them, and choose the one that feels closest. That turns design prompting into design selection. And for a lot of people, that is exactly what they need. Most people can tell which design looks better when they see it. They just cannot always describe it perfectly in words. So this is one of those features that sounds simple, but can make the whole app building experience feel much better. Now, I do hope Google keeps improving this and makes it more controllable over time. For example, it would be really useful if you could generate variations only for a specific screen, or only for a component, or preserve the exact layout but change the visual style, or preserve the style but change the information density. Because design is not just colors, it is spacing, hierarchy, layout, contrast, motion, state handling, empty states, loading states, and all of that. But even as a single-click feature, this is a really good direction. And when you combine it with Android app generation, it becomes even more interesting. Because mobile app design is tricky. You have less space, touch targets need to be comfortable, text needs to be readable, and the interface needs to feel native. So if AI Studio can generate Android apps and also help you explore better UI directions quickly, that makes it much more practical for people who want to build real mobile prototypes. Now, I still want to be very clear. Do not blindly publish whatever AI Studio generates, especially for Android apps. If your app uses permissions like camera, microphone, location, notification access, usage access, overlay permissions, background services, contacts, files, or anything sensitive, you need to inspect everything carefully. AI can generate working code, but working code is not always safe code, efficient code, or policy-compliant code. You should still check the manifest, review permissions, test on multiple devices, check battery usage, check error handling, and make sure your app does not collect or expose anything it should not. Also, pricing and accounts still matter. AI Studio itself is very generous. But if your app uses Gemini APIs, Google Cloud, Play Console, Firebase, or other paid services, you need to understand the cost side, and if you want to publish on Google Play, the developer account has a one-time $25 fee. So, this is not magic. It is still software development. But the starting point is getting much better. And that is the part I really like. AI Studio is slowly becoming a full creative coding environment. You can start with a rough idea, generate an app, preview it, edit it, try different designs, install it on a real device, and then keep iterating. For students, hobby builders, indie hackers, and people who just want to prototype an idea quickly, this is amazing, for sure. For professional developers, I think it is more of a fast exploration tool. You use it to generate the first version, test the concept, maybe download the project, and then continue properly in Android Studio or your normal workflow. Overall, this is a really good update. Android app generation makes AI Studio much more serious as an app builder, and design variations fixes one of the biggest pain points of vibe coding, which is getting the app to actually look good without writing a perfect design prompt. So if you have been ignoring AI Studio build, I think this is a good time to try it again. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, consider donating through the Super Thanks option or becoming a member by clicking the Join button. Also, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.